basically the only word I've learned in Finnish, and I think I've learned ravintola, but I have no idea what that means. I think it's restaurant, right? Yay, okay. But I know moi and then moi moi. So you made my life easy. It's one word and I can say two things, right? So it's a pleasure to be here. But before I can begin our journey, I always like to begin by asking permission to my ancestors and the spirits that guide me to be in such a space and to pass the message that I need to pass. I also would like to honor your presence here at this very moment, both in here in this room and at home or online, wherever you are at this moment. And also, I would like to express my gratitude for everyone that made this amazing event possible and everyone that shared their knowledge with us. The good thing about being the last speaker, well, everything in life has two sides, right? So the bad side is that I'm quite nervous and I'm usually not anxious and nervous when I step on the stage because it's a big responsibility, you know, to close an event. But the good thing is that we can actually connect with some of the things that were said before. So yeah, I'm going to start actually by just interacting a little bit with the audience here, and whoever is watching online can write on the chat if you want to interact with each other. I just want you to please raise your hand if you're originally from outside the European Union. Okay, from you, please keep your hands raised if you are from the global south. Okay, from you, please keep your hands raised if you are from Latin America. Yeah. And please keep your hands raised if you, like me, are from Brazil. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, yay, 5, nice, nice. Okay, one last thing. I want to know from your ancestors, your roots. So please raise your hands if you are from if you're an African descent. African descent, okay. Asian descent? Okay. Indigenous descent. Cool. This is very important for us to look at and to perceive, because then we're going to know from where we're standing in this room and from where I am standing in this stage and from where I'm going to speak to you. And some of the things that I might bring today might provoke some of your ways of being and thinking, and it might cause a bit of discomfort, but I need you to know that it all comes from a place of love, from the global south to the global north, carrying a lot of hope to what is about to come. Our narrative today is going to be divided in 3 moments. First, we're going to take a quick look into our context, our present time, what's happening today. Then we're going to move looking into the origins of these contexts of this present time, looking into our past, so we can move forward into the future, thinking of pathways out from the mess that we're actually in. And in this point, I would like to make 3 connections to 3 amazing women that were speaking in different stages during this event. So somehow these pathways out connect to what Gael yesterday was talking about, speculative design, and somehow it is also a way out of capitalism, as Ana Colina was proposing with Design Against Capitalism. And I just heard Jennifer speaking of the North Star, so maybe that could be also a North Star to guide us. And through this narrative, we're going to have a few keywords so we can find a way. For some of them, I'll bring some quick descriptions along the way. And without further ado, I would like to speak of our context, our present time that is characterized by these polycrises. A polycrisis is multiple and simultaneous crises that affect more than one aspect of lives, countries, and economies. And that can manifest itself as the hundreds, if not thousands of fires burning at this moment, different ecosystems all over Brazil and South America, that has as consequences these kind of sky. This is São Paulo 3 weeks ago. São Paulo had the worst air quality in the world for 3 or more consecutive days because of the smokes from the fires burning all over Brazil and South America. This polycrisis also manifests itself as rivers drying up. This is one of the major and biggest rivers of the Brazilian Amazonia. And on the other hand, while on one side we can have amazing droughts, on the other side we can have huge floods. This is my hometown, Porto Alegre. More than 60% of my state, Rio Grande do Sul, you can actually fit 3 Portugals inside my state. For you to have an idea, more than 60% of my state was affected by the floods that happened in April. Some cities were totally wiped out of the map. But some might think still, well, but this is Brazil, you know, this is far from me. I live far from there. But well, this is Poland, this is Romania, this is Portugal. And we are all part of the same interconnected world. So there is no way the magnitude that is happening in South America, something that big will not affect the world somehow in different places. And we're also driving the 6th mass extinction of all the species that share this earthly experience with us at this moment. And if we have less species, that means that we're going to have probably less resources and that we're going to have less food. And that might drive us invariably to food shortages or hunger, and that's already happening in the world at this moment. And this is a polycrisis. It affects different aspects of lives, and we'll probably see more wars other than Ukraine and Gaza for territory and for resources. Or war for power and control, civil wars. This civil war is happening for many years already in Sudan and Myanmar. And obviously, we're already seeing a lot of climate migrations and forced migrations of different sorts, and we'll continue to see that happening over the years. But unfortunately, not all sentient beings, when they have their homes burned, destroyed by human hands, or deforested, they can flee their homes. This is one of the saddest and most touching images I had seen in the last times, and this is an orangutan fighting a backhoe to stop killing the trees that are his home, his shelter, his food, his whole life. So the environmental emergency is the hardest and most systemic of all crises. But one might ask oneself, are there good things happening at the moment? And yes, of course, there are good things happening at the moment. For instance, the company I work for, Regreen, is restoring thousands of hectares of tropical forest in Brazil at this moment. We had seen amazing solidarity for so many people during the floods in Porto Alegre and Rio Grande do Sul, and we still have a lot of species being discovered, well, frequently, if not every month. This is a new species of fish from the Red Sea. But is it enough, though? And no, of course it's not enough. We need to do more, and we need to act now. So one might ask, how? One of the ways is to think of the origins of these crises that we're living in. We need to search for root causes. And I'll bring 2 of these root causes. At least I believe they are 2 important causes for this context. So we need to dig into our past in order to move forward. And I'll bring anthropocentrism as one of these causes. Anthropocentrism is the centeredness of our attention, our narratives, our cosmovisions, our creations, our designs. Hello, human-centered design. On the human being, perceived as the most important figure of the whole universe. So, and for over 500 years, we've been living and we have been trapped inside this very limited worldview. This worldview that it's characterized as anthropocentric, but I might as well call it androcentric, because the anthropo is the human figure. Andro, it's usually a representation of a white, rich, heterosexual, cisgender men. So I might call this vision androcentric. It's also logocentric because it's focused on the rational side of things, the rational mind, the rationality, Cartesianism. Rationality is all that matters, so it's logocentric as well. And this might hurt for some of you, I hope it doesn't, but it's also Eurocentric because it had started on this small piece of land where Europe stands today, and that had created these two very important but very hurtful divisions. The first one being the division in between West and East. So from the fall of the Roman Empire, you had the division West and East. And West built itself, especially after medieval times, as more important than all of the East. And when we came to the grand navigations, when we come to the discovery of the new world, when then the new division came forth, which is North and South, North, the conqueror, being more important than the South. And this worldview sees the whole world and life as composed of opposites, of polarities. So it's light opposed to darkness. Human is opposed to nature. Human is more important than all the rest of the nature. Masculine is different, is superior than feminine. Mind is different than spirit. Reason is different and better than emotion. Objective is a way to be as opposed to subjective. White as the color of a skin is better than any other non-white, and civilized is the correct way a society should be as opposed to savage. So this Western worldview, but worldview is my word of choice. Some people call it paradigm, some people call it mindset, some people call it ontology, okay? You can call it in different ways. But for me, this is a worldview because it's just a broad word that we can use. So this Western worldview has been adopted by the world through the colonization and globalization processes. And through it, we've been led to believe in things that are not actually true, but we truly believed they are and were true. We truly believed in that. For instance, we truly believed that men, or the human figure, is superior than the rest of the creation. We believed it so firmly that we have actually organized the rest of the creation in an order of importance, all of that to serve the human figure or the male human figure. And we have also created an idea of success that can translate itself into possessions and wealth, and having big and shiny things, and having a private jet, and being able to just have dinner in Paris and then coming back home in Denmark to sleep in my own bed because I have a private jet. So we have also created other images for happiness, for instance, in family, where happiness is connected to consumerism. The more I have, the happier I am. This is still true for a lot of the people and places around the world. And family, well, we have this ideal family that it's composed of a cisgender woman, a cisgender man, 2 kids, both perfect, or the 4 of them absolutely perfect, and obviously they need to be white. And we have created this image of the world where if we take a close look, we're going to think that the diagonal of Russia is larger than the diagonal that we can make of Africa. But when we put the map in its correct perspective, we can see that we can actually fit the whole of the United States, China and India inside of the African continent and still have room left. The diagonal of Russia is 6,400 kilometers. The diagonal of Africa is 7,200 kilometers. So we have been living in a world that is represented in such a way that puts importance somewhere else. And these truths are part of the Western worldview, these anthropo, andro, ero, logocentric narrative that we have been repeating over and over and over for so many years. And many humans in the world still think in those terms and lead their lives with these truths. And worst of all, many make decisions that impact the collectivity of the world based on this worldview. And basically, this has brought us to the verge of collapse. This is the context that we're living in today. So, how can we move out of it and forward into something new? This is one very important question that we need to make as well, and this is us coming to our third part. We need to think of pathways out. We need to create pathways out of these mess. So we might be transitioning to a new world. And this is good news, yeah, because we don't really see what's the new world that it's, creating its shape in front of us, because it might be still very far away. But we are transitioning. And one of the ways we need to speed up, actually, this transition. And one of the ways to speed up transition is through decoloniality. And for me, decoloniality is like a framework that challenges the lasting effects of colonialism, seeking to dismantle colonial power structures and ways of thinking, while at the same time promoting alternative perspectives, alternative knowledges, and alternative practices. So thinking back on the word transition, if we look at its etymology, we're going to see that in Latin it means to go across. So at this moment, we're going across the end of a world. We're going across the end of the modern world, and this is very important for us to perceive. We need to be in peace with it, because it can be quite disturbing at some times, yes? We don't know what's in front of us. We don't know where to go to, but we're just transitioning. We're going across, and this going across means that we're making a journey into the yet unknown. And this is great opportunity. We should be very excited and happy to be living in this moment, to be together right here, right now, because we have a chance to talk about it and do something about it. And a journey, well, you all know, we've been talking about that for the last 2 days, right? A journey is an experience on a path that can actually be designed. So we need to design transformative journeys towards better and regenerated futures, guided by a new set of informations, values, and beliefs different than the informations, the values, and the beliefs that had brought us to the verge of collapse, different to the information that we have used, the values that we have used, and the beliefs that we have used up until now. So we need information, values, and beliefs that can reconnect us to our ancestral roots, to who we were in the time before the Western worldview itself, or better said, imposed itself through war and conquest and so many other processes and political processes and economical processes. So we need to go back to who we were in the time before that imposition happened and we all changed our world into this modern world. This is actually decolonization, is to free our minds from the imposed constraints of a limited worldview. And I know that some of you might be already angry at me, thinking that I am saying that we need to, throw away all of the things that we have done and created with these mentality, these Western worldview, but no, of course not. I would never do that, never throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have conquered and we have come with so many advances thanks to these Western worldview, thanks to the, for instance, science that these Western worldview created and perceives as science. But one thing is to acknowledge that this is important. The other thing is to say that, well, we nowadays are much better off than we could have ever been if this or that had happened in the past. If something different had happened in the past, we don't know. We simply don't know. We cannot know that. Okay, so this is just one way that history unfolded itself. The thing is, and this is why I get bugged by these imposition of this single worldview. There is no single way of being in the world. There is no single worldview that will suit everyone. So this is actually an invitation for us to think pluriversally, for us to think in terms of plurality. I think you got that, yeah? We need to think diversity. We are all pluriverses. Even nowadays that we have this almost homogeneous world, we still have on it so many different places and ethnicities and tribes and peoples, and we do live still in a pluriversal world. So this is an invitation, a special invitation to the global north to think pluriversally. So going back to where I was before, bottom line, we need a reconnection. So let's go back to the polarities that we spoke before. So we need to reconnect them. We need light and darkness. We have dusk and we have dawn. It's not only 100% light or 100% darkness. We always have a spectrum in between. We have human and nature, and I'm going to speak a lot about that in the next slides. We have masculine and feminine. Me as a woman, I have a very strong masculine side inside of me that I can use it at will. And I know that every man also, you can be as heterosexual as you want, as cisgender as you want, but you do have a feminine side inside of you as well. We are all both at the same time, and we can play with that along the way. We have mind and spirit. They should work together. We have reason and emotion that are actually researches that will show that we actually take all of our decisions with our emotional mind, but we rationalize it and we explain it through our rational side, our rational mind. So we do need to acknowledge that they work together. We need objective and subjective, white and non-white as one people, one species. And civilized and savage are just two different ways of being in this world. And we need to shed light on our forgotten halves. We need to shed light on our dark side, our natural, feminine, spiritual, emotional, subjective, non-white, colorful, and savage side. For example, then, we need this kind of value and belief that would put the human figure just as one part of a much larger whole. We need new images for success. This is Davi Kopenawa. Davi Kopenawa is Yanomami leader that, together with Bruce Albert and Claudia Andujar, had managed to demarcate thousands of hectares of land for the Yanomami people in the Amazon rainforest. This is success. Oh, and this is Watari, I forgot, Wangari Maathai, I'm sorry, from Nairobi, and she had planted over 30,000 trees in Nairobi. Those are beautiful images for success. And how about happiness? I'm sure all of you have heard, if not have used, the sentence, time is money. But I know that I can walk out of this room in half an hour, be hit by a bus, and I can die right here and right there. And that happens. That is life. And if I'm in the process of dying, well, I'm a Buddhist. We have a process in dying, yeah? So if I'm in a process of dying and I look back at my life and I perceive it as, well, I have spent it thinking that my time was money, I will be sad, because actually time is life. Time is being here at the moment. So happiness is just, oh my God, we're here at this moment having this amazing experience of life in this amazing planet that we have the fortune to be living in. So this should be happiness, just being present at the moment. And needless to say, families come in all colors, all shapes, and even all species. And well, humans are just one very diverse species. We don't have different races. We just have different colors and different cultures. And the diversity in us only reflects the diversity in nature. And there is no correct way to be in nature. There is no one single way to be in this world. We are all a pluriverse of possibilities, a pluriverse of cultures. We all have our ways of being, our cosmologies, the languages that we use to describe the world around us and the relation that we have to this world. And none of us is better than others. And when I say none of us is better than others, I mean that none of us, humans, are better than our earthly colleagues, non-humans. Because we are all nature. To regenerate, then, is to reconnect to whom we really are, to the fact that we are all nature. But how to do it? Obviously, we need to ask again another question. How to do this reconnection through design, since we are all designers and we bear a huge responsibility in the world that we're living in nowadays. I know that we usually perceive ourselves as superheroes. I know that designers always want to conquer the world. You know, we're always going to think that, yeah, I can solve that. We're problem solvers, right? I know, I love that. I love that about designers. I love that about myself. I always think that I can have a solution for something. But we have a huge responsibility on the world that we're living in today. So we have also a huge responsibility thinking on pathways out. So we need to design this journey. And one way to do that is through regeneration. Regeneration can guide us. And regeneration is a movement that questions, searches for roots, reconnection and restoration that can be identified in various areas and activities from agriculture to design. And again, Gael yesterday was speaking about regenerative design because Ellen MacArthur has a report on regenerative agriculture. So yeah, it is a movement that is happening in many different areas of society at the moment. As you all know, service design is about creating memorable experiences, memorable journeys. So, yay! This is so good. This is so good. We're perfectly suited for the task ahead of us. This is amazing. I'm thrilled that we're in this room full of people that are perfectly suited for the task of thinking pathways out and creating regenerative journeys. So what if we created regenerative journeys, reconnecting us to our forgotten halves? How would that look? How about a shop that would invite its customers to walk in barefoot on dirt with a scent of freshly watered grass, teaching us to walk on earth as earth? Or how about a virtual experience where we'd actually see ourselves mirrored as other non-human beings? Because after all, aren't we all animals? Or how about a service designed to teach us to embrace diversity, because we need to accept that we are not all the same and it's okay not to be the same. This is the Café of Mistaken Orders in Japan, and it's served by people with dementia. How about a customer journey that would teach us how to make better and more sustainable decisions all along the way so we can learn as we move along? Or how about a show powered by the movement of its own showgoers, so we would save a lot of energy from the regular grid, because it's not only for us or about us all the time, and we need to think broadly. This, if I'm not mistaken, is Coldplay show where bicycles and other gadgets helped to power the energy of the stage. And how about a game where our own choices to build a human city will teach us the consequences, the non-human consequences of our choices, instead of war games? For all of these examples, one might say, well, but this is not profitable, is it? Because people prefer war games after all. And then I will ask in return, is this the moment that we should be thinking still business as usual and profit? Is this the moment we should be thinking business as usual and profit? Or should we be putting a lot of our emotional mind and all of our forgotten halves to make this kind of reality far more appealing and far more desirable than, for instance, a war game? I do believe so, because this is us actually creating positive impact. So, obviously, as you've seen, most of these examples are made up because we still don't have the recipe to create our way out of the contest that we're living in. And maybe we shouldn't have, because if we're thinking pluriversally, there is no one recipe. There is a sentence in English, one size fits it all, something like that. Yeah? Okay, so there is no such a thing. Yeah, we need to think pluriversally as well. We need to think different recipes. So this is an actual invitation for us to try and do together. We need to experiment, and it's very important in a transitional moment to experiment and to be free to experiment and just to play with the possibilities. Yeah? One of the places where we can do that more freely is inside the classroom. So the educational system for this period is one of the most important ones. So we can actually be free to play with possibilities. I know that Luis yesterday was speaking about the prize and the student prize as the ones that can actually push the boundaries a bit further away. So this is the space where we can actually play and experiment. And all of these experiences can be designed either inside or outside companies. So we can work in employee journeys or customer journeys. And it works slightly different on these halves that we need to connect. Again, when we're thinking about employee journey, for instance, we can pay more attention to these reconnections: masculine and feminine, reason and emotion, objective and subjective, and white and non-white. When we look at it, what are we looking at? We're actually looking at the efforts of diversity, equity, and inclusion that companies have been making nowadays inside of the ESG agenda. But one of these pears might be a bit harder to swallow because, well, one second, I just need a sip of water. Water. Thank you. So we were taught actually to relate to the world around us in a very objective way. We should describe the world objectively. But when we think, what is an object? An object has no agency. An object is no stakeholder in a journey, right? An object is an object. And, well, we are not objects. We are living beings. And since we are living beings, we are subjectives. We are selves. And a self has agency in the world. A self can only perceive the world through its selfness. So what we have is the world is nothing but a collective of subjective experiences. And if we go radical diversity, the next step of DEI efforts will be embracing all of the selfnesses that surround us. This is radical diversity. And if we look in the working out, in the customer journey, so some of these might pop out a bit more, like connecting human and nature, masculine and feminine, mind and spirit, and civilized and savages, because they are broader and more abstract concepts. So we can explore them more freely and creatively when we're thinking about our journeys and our experiences, such as the ones that I gave as examples. Bottom line, the fact is that we are designers, service, graphic, product, strategic designers, all kinds of designers. And because we are designers, we give the world around us its shape and colors. And we need to start shaping a new world, a world where all of us, humans and non-humans, fit in. This is obviously not going to be an easy journey because it needs us to change our blind ways of going, blind ways of being. It needs us to break a bit of the limits that we've been living inside. So the journey actually starts with each one of us. So we need to expand these limits and we need to embrace our forgotten halves and embrace otherness. So it will obviously need our diligent effort. But the good news is there are a few easy and functional tools we can use to speed up this transformative journey. One of these tools is repetition. Repetition is one mnemonic, powerful tool to reprogram our brain and behavior. And mantras are sound repetitions that can actually reprogram our brains. And some of you might think that a mantra is just from the Oriental culture, Buddhist or Hinduist, but actually different indigenous cultures, they do have mantra, but in different forms, as a way of being and connecting to this earthly experience. Our indigenous tribes in Brazil, they use the maraca, which is a shaker, and they have chants that are like prayers that they say, they repeat time over time over time, bumping. Listening to the heart of the earth. So that could be very powerful and a very touching experience. So, shall we give our first step in this journey towards a new and regenerated world? I need way more than that. Let's try that again, shall we? Are you ready? Yes. Shall we give our first step? Okay, thank you. So, you have all received in the entrance a postcard like these. We are going to create our own mantra, our own pledge. We're going to create right here, right now, a commitment to one another. So you at home, guys, we haven't forgotten about you. You have in your mirror board, you have a design like this, so you can take one and use it, and then you will be able to save it on your computer. So if you can grab it. I have a suggestion, okay, for a mantra, because I know that when we're caught by surprise, sometimes it's hard. Oh my God, what do I need to do right now? So I have a suggestion, yeah? I brought a suggestion for us of a mantra that goes like, I am an interconnected being. Through my work and actions, I shape the world around me. I choose to shape it for good and for positive impact for all of us. This is just a suggestion, but you can write it as you wish, as you want. But I'm going to ask you to write down in your language, your own mother tongue, your language, your own language. So if you choose to use these, please translate into your language. If you want to use your own mantra, just go with it. I know that I'm not sure if I should leave on the white because it has more light, or if I should leave here and for you to copy, you know. These one, okay. So let's do it right now. I'll give you like 2 minutes to do that, at home as well. I'm paying attention to the heads, so I see that there is a lot of heads down, still writing. A few more seconds and then we'll move on. Ready? Okay, over time, we had many people, prophets even, telling us which way to go, what to do. But we haven't listened, have we? And it is to my belief that we haven't listened because we need to listen to our own voice. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to read our mantras out loud, as if we mean each and every word we wrote. And I know that Finns don't like to talk very loud, but yeah, because I've heard that. It's not me that's saying, okay. Our host has said that many times. We're going to move out of our comfort zone, and we're actually going to read it loud, okay? We're going to fill this entire room with our own voices, and we're going to do that in our own languages. All right? Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, so on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1. Somos seres de luz e amor. Somos muitos. Estamos presentes. Somos uma rede de luz e amor envolvendo a Mãe Terra. Que todas nossas ações beneficiem todos os seres. Que assim seja, assim é. Que assim seja, assim é. Que assim seja, assim é. You make me hopeful for better futures. Thank you very much.